Welcome into another Musings from the Mind of tutorial where we are going to play with particles and f-stop on our camera and try to make this sci-fi ember space lights effect. So with that said, let's jump into our Blender project. Hit File, New, General. Going to hit 1 on my numpad to go to front view. Delete the default cube. For this effect, you could do it with just the embers if you wanted to, but I wanted an object to be the focal point of my camera. So I am going to hit Shift A, Mesh, and we're going to add the Suzanne. If you noticed, the material that was on my text in my example at the beginning, it came from Real-Time Materials, which is a product of Ducky 3D. There'll be a link in the description, and it is just a great way to add quick materials to your project. And just feel free to add any color to your object or leave it colorless if that's what you want to do. I'm also going to go to my world view, and I'm going to go here next to color, click the orange dot. I'm going to change that to environmental texture, and I'm going to load a texture that I downloaded from HDRI Haven, and I'm going to use that as my scene lights, but I don't want to use it as my scene world. We're going to add 3 planes, so Shift A, Mesh Plane, Rotate X 90. We're going to, while I'm here, so I can know what size I want to make my plane, let's do Control Alt 0 to focus our camera on our view. I'm going to scale X, and I am going to scale Y, not Y, I'm going to scale Z to make sure that my camera, that I have a background back here, and I'm going to get Y and make sure this is behind my Suzanne, and I'm just going to give this a quick principled, and we're just going to make it solid black. Now then, I want to add another plane. We're going to call this one emitter 1, and I'm going to go in wire view for right now so I can see it good. I'm going to rotate this guy about 45 degrees. I'm going to take him down here to the corner here, and I am going to hit S and just scale him up a bit. And I'm going to jump back in here. We're going to add a particle system to this guy. I want it to have about 300 particles. We're going to start at 1, we're going to end at 250, and all of my particles are going to live the full 250. Now if I go ahead and hit spacebar, you can see the particles kind of pop up and drop. That's because my field weights, gravity is pulling them down, so I'm going to turn off gravity. And if we go back to the beginning, you'll see now they're coming up. They're kind of coming up in a uniform fashion. So what I want to do is under physics, I'm going to go to Brownian, and I'm going to hit 2. And we go back, and you'll see this now kind of lets them move in a little bit of a wavy fashion. And I think we're good there, but I don't want to just use these default spheres that are being created as particles. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add Shift A, I'm going to add a mesh plane, rotate X 90. I'm going to get that guy and just kind of pull him off the side, scale him to 0.5. I'm going to give him a material. I'm going to make it an emission. I'm going to set this guy to red and emission strength to 3. I'm going to do a Shift D, and I'm going to pull that guy over, and I'm going to hit right here where it says 2. I'm going to click that so that it becomes its own material. I'm going to throw this guy up to being a green, and I'm keeping with the emitter of 3. I'm going to do a Shift A. I'm going to do a mesh circle, rotate X90. Well, let's try that again. I clicked on my background by accident. Rotate X90. I'm going to get that guy, pull him down here, scale 0.5. This is a circle that doesn't have any body to it, so we're going to hit Tab to go into edit mode, hit F to fill it in. I'm going to tab back out, and I'm going to give this a new emission shader, and we'll make this one yellow and change that to 3, and then just one more Shift D, and again click here on the 2 to make it its own material, and we'll take this guy over to blue. Now then, what I can do is back here on my emitter 1 in the particle system, I can go down here to render, and instead of halo I'm going to choose collection, and then I'm going to hit these guys, select all 4 of them using Shift, right click, move to collection, new collection, and we'll call this emitter symbols. Alright, so let's jump back into our particle system for our emitter 1, and under collection, instant collection is emitter symbols. We're going to hit space, and if you'll notice, these guys are coming off flat. We don't want that, so what we need to do is we need to select object orientation or rotation, which will then make them the same rotation as our other objects. The other thing I want us to do is our scale is way too small, so we're going to bump this up to maybe a 1.4, and let's do our scale variation, our scale randomization at a 0.75. And then under render, we also want to make sure we don't show the emitter, and that should be good. Let's look and see what happens. Alright, so our different colors are coming up, and they're kind of floating around. That may be a few too many, so I'm going to drop this guy down to about 220. And then what I want to do is I'm going to, I said we were going to do 3 planes. We did one plane that was our background, one plane that was our emitter 1. I want to Shift D this plane. Go ahead and just hit enter. We're going to rename this guy emitter 2, and under the particle system, just like we did with the material, I'm going to click here so it'll be its own particle system. I'm going to drop this down to about 75 on the number, and then I want to up the Brownian to maybe a 4.5, so these have a little bit more effect to them. We're going to go into velocity, and I'm going to up this to maybe a 3.5, so these particles will move a little faster, and then everything else will remain the same. It's the collection and all that. So let's take a look, and now we have some particles that are moving slow and some particles that are moving extremely fast. Now then, what I did in my sample that you can do depending on the effects you want, you can adjust the particles by addressing this velocity, make it faster or slower. You know, you could add like a 0.2 to randomize some of the velocity. But the other thing I did is Shift A, I added a force field wind, rotated this guy so it would blow horizontally, and then kind of moved it off to back here, and then that allows my particles to come up and then kind of forces them to flow to the right. Now, that may be effect you do or do not like. So feel free to add the wind or not add the wind. The other thing that I found interesting was in the camera we can kind of give that faded out or focused out look. So if we go to our camera and we click turn on depth of field, we can turn our f-stop all the way down, which kind of gives us this cool out of focus look. But the reason I put an object in mine is because I wanted to have a focal point. So I'm going to go here and under focus on object, I've got my Suzanne is in focus, and by doing that, some of my emitters are in focus, the ones that are close to the Suzanne. The ones that are closer or further away from the camera are kind of out of focus, so it gives this neat little effect. And like I said, you can play with the speed of the velocity of the particles. You can add a wind or a turbulence, and then we can play with that f-stop to get the full effect. And we'll just stop right here. I want to hit render image, and there we go. Again, check out Ducky 3D's real-time materials. There will be a link in the description. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. I hope it was helpful to you. If you have any tips on how to better use particles or the camera, or even tips on animating the focus in and out, please put something in the comments. I hope you will hit that subscribe button and come see us next time we throw a video out there. I'm hoping I can share what I'm learning as I'm learning it, and I appreciate you taking time to watch the video.